Hello everyone, I am Vishal. For the people watching our webinar, you must be knowing me. Who am I? For the ones who have joined us for the first time now, I am Vishal. I am in this industry of animation, visual effects, and games since 2004. And during this journey, I have also worked with esteemed organizations. Today, I am working as General Manager Technicals at Frameboxx, Animation and Visual Effects. As we have promised in the first webinar that we will be bringing such informative content every week, I am pretty sure all of you watching most of our webinars and guys, you have and guys whoever have missed our previous webinars can visit our channel to watch them again. Before starting this webinar, I will just take you through a few housekeeping rules so that this webinar can run smoothly. We have worked pretty hard for getting such kind of content on live webinars just for you so that we can help you gain knowledge. I request all of you guys to take advantage of this live webinars and clear your doubts. One more thing, please ask relevant questions. And during this webinar, whenever we see your relevant questions getting lined up with the webinar, we will try to solve them at that time. So without further ado, let's dive into our today's topic, Blender. I hope most of you folks here might have heard about this software. Almost all this, amongst all the softwares, Blender is highly recognized 3D tool nowadays. Being open sourced and free to use, it is making its name in the industry. Today we'll be giving you a little short introduction of Blender along with a live session on it. To understand what, why and how of Blender, I feel all you students, professionals and enthusiasts must be having all such questions. So to answer them and to show you a live demo, I welcome today's guest, Miss Ayushi Gandhi.
Hello, sir. Hello, Vishal, sir.
I
Thank
hope
you for
you're
having
safe.
me.
I hope you're safe and all geared up for today's webinar.
Yeah.
So I'll just give a little introduction about Ayushi. She's an asset artist working for a leading animation studio based in Mumbai. As a working professional, she has gained experience with hard surface modeling, organic modeling, and texturing. In her daily work, Blender is a get-to-go software for her. So Ayushi, what do we have for today?
Today we are going to do Blender. We are going to work around with Blender. And first of all, thank you, Vishal, sir, for having me, and Frameboxx for organizing this whole amazing series of webinars, which I'm sure very helpful for everyone who wishes to get into 3D and VFX and already is into it. And today we'll work with Blender. I will show you around, give you a basic overview of Blender. So Blender was created by Ton Rosendel, and today Blender it has quite a big name for itself, and it has a lot of support coming in from a lot of big companies like Unreal Games and a lot of financial support as well. So it is continuously updating itself. Essentially, Blender is an open source software. So basically, it means that the the codes of the software are openly available, which helps it to get developed not only by the core team but also outside of the core team. And whoever would like to develop add-ons for for Blender or any sort of tools can openly do it without any sort of buddy or permissions, papers, nothing. And so that is also one of the biggest advantages of using Blender, because not only can you go online and find out answers for your problems, but also a numerous amount of add-ons which help you with not only your workflow, but it helps you with your workflow, but also for your basic needs within the software. So Blender,
So I
I'll
think
start off.
Ayushi, yeah, we can get into a overview of the UI, I suppose, because that's where I feel people want to know. Before
Yeah.
that, before that, all you guys, can you just write in the comment box, like, are you what kind of interest do you hold for Blender? Are you a professional? Are you a student? Are you a hobbyist, or you are trying to learn Blender? Can you just write in the comments so we can target our webinar to that thing? Yeah, you can continue. We can get into the UI.
Okay. Just a small thing before UI. I would just like to show you blender.org, and this is the latest version of Blender, Blender 2.83. You can just go over here, download Blender, and from here there are two Blender files essential, which is one is regular Blender install, and another zip folder. So zip folder with the zip Blender, you can take the Blender with your plugins, with your add-ons, with your settings and everything, and you can take it anywhere. You can take it to another system, another place, anywhere, and just start up that Blender file, and all your plugins, all your Blender settings will be the same. No need to create another to start out the whole Blender again. Okay. Um, so this is the Blender UI. The first time that you will download Blender, Blender will look like this, and majorly this one square, where you will get some startup settings. So I would suggest you to keep select with left, and rest I'll explain you in a short moment. So that same screen, the settings on the same screen can be accessed through preferences, edit preferences, then key map preferences. So this is a place where you will find those settings again. So left click, select with left, and spacebar action, play, tools, and search. And if you have a project which is animation based, I would suggest you to keep it on play for easy access. And then you can just save your preferences and start out. So this is basically the startup UI, the 3D layout, where you can use control middle mouse to zoom in and zoom out, then shift middle mouse to pan, and middle mouse to rotate. Okay, and then over here in this section, this is timeline. Then this is basically this panel is basically the driver steering wheel of Blender, because it has everything about whatever drives your scene is over here, like render settings, units and scale, then modifiers, material tab, uh, textures, constraints, particle system, and physics. Over here is the outliner. Any object that you add, anything that you do is basically available in a list form over here. Collections basically are groups in Blender. Over here is the toolbar, which you can expand if you wish, so that you don't need to memorize any icons, and it's all available to you in wordings also. And then over here there's a list of layouts which help you quickly shift between, like, UV editing, texture painting, shading. And the another very good feature of Blender is that you can customize your UI however you like. You can have shader editor over here. Yeah, this is basically where you will be creating your materials. Then you can have timeline, you can have video sequence, whatever you like. 3D view, you can have one more 3D view if you want, for different views of your object. So I'll just start up a new file again. And so to select these, to get this pie menu, just press the tilt key, and you get this pie menu. But what I would prefer firstly for it is just go to add-ons, and search Pi. This will give you this list of Pi menus which are useful. You can take a screenshot if you like, or you can always revisit the webinar to see what I prefer. Some of them I keep off and some of them I keep on. So this will be useful for your future workflow. So now I believe I'll start getting into the basics of modeling. Well, we start. Today I will show you a demo of how to create a basic mug. So from with Shift A, we go to Mesh, create a circle. From here, I will add 16 vertices, triangle fan, and also get this down to say 0.5. And we can set the units from here, centimeters. This tab can be turned on and off with N, and toolbar can be turned on and off with T. So over here is all the information that I require about my object, and you can always reset your transform, scale, and location settings from Control A. I'll just scale up and let's just start. So I will go into edit mode via tab. I'll select vertices, E and Z to extrude in Z axis. And now I will scale with S. So basic controls would be scale with S, G for grab or move, and you can choose whatever axis you want to move it or edit in by just clicking the letter. So Y axis, X axis, and Z axis, and rotate. The same axis rules apply. And the only extension is that double click on the R button will give you a free rotation. So with the basics of transform out of the way, we'll just go in, Control R for loop, and then I'll just scale it up with S, Control B for bevel, plus key and minus key for divisions. I'll keep it up to this. Now I will add one loop cut over here, one loop cut over here. So now I will go into modifiers panel and select on solidify. I will just tilt the camera a little to see the thickness. So we have chosen this thickness and I will apply it. So there's some thickness now. And let's just start giving it some subdivision information. With Shift Select, you can select multiple faces. So I will choose these faces for the handles. I will do E for extrude, X for axis, and now you can just go on by Control right click and just keep selecting. Just clicking, I'm only pressing down Control and right click button. That's it. And this, we'll just delete faces with X. Now I will select these two edge loops to join the handle of the mug. You can now you will have to access into the menus of edge. So edge menu is via Control E, and from here you will select bridge edge loops. And any menu, any place in Blender where you see an underlined letter is basically the shortcut for that option. So what I do in my workflow is to just go like Control E or right click if you are already in edge mode, Control E and L. So this thing is connected now. Handle is connected. Just subdivision loop. And we have a basic quick mug with a very thick handle ready. And okay, just some basic edge loops again. Control R. We can bevel a vertex by Control Shift B. This is looking like this because there are a lot of segments to it. So just go down on segments with minus M for merge center. So this is a very basic way to make a mug, and I'll just select some. So now we will get into texturing. So for texturing, we will get firstly UV editing is required. UV. So I'll choose some edges. Shift. Alt is for the ring select, and with Shift and Alt you can select multiple. So Shift Alt and click. Shift Alt and click. And now for to mark scenes, we just click U for unwrap and mark scene, which with the letter highlighted as M. So I'll just go mark scene with M. I will select it. I select this with U M. Now the one very good feature of Blender is if I unwrap it right now, it looks like this. But if I turn on live unwrap, and now if I say if I make a loop over here, U M, it automatically unwraps itself, which is where which can add or which can decrease your which can decrease your time, and also can be very useful for your workflow. And over here. So this is the circle select, which you can get via C. So it can just select whatever you want as you paint on it, paint over it. With middle mouse, you can deselect. U M. So everything else. Okay. So in UV editing, when sometimes we require for our UVs to be like perfectly square. So there is a small add-on that I will introduce you to, UV squares, which is we are UV squares and Magic UV. Let's always keep these two UV add-ons handy. UV squares is something that you will find online. It's not internally in Blender, but it will be very handy for you. So I'll just show you a quick way to use it right now. So I'll just take this R90. Make sure what's the alignment. Okay, so this is up. And I'll just shift this down. Just have some. Whatever UVs are not required, you can just push them aside a little. Let's just keep this. You can select a whole layout with L. It will select everything that is linked. And then we go to N, which creates this panel. And from here, we will go to UV squares, grid to grid by shape. Sorry, we'll have to turn this off. And now we select this to grid by shape, R90, just to, okay, we just have to rotate this. Okay. So now since UV is done, so I did that to have some amount of some sort of a texture on it. and I will. So now we are in shading. But texture painting is something that we will get into it in future Blender Blender webinars that we'll have. Hopefully, you'll attend one of those two. So now we are in the shading preview. Over here is the file explorer where you can choose your files from. Over here, I'll just select the mug and add a material to it. Before that, I'll just add a plane and select the mug. We are in material preview right now. Basically, Blender has three main previews: wireframe, solid, material, and render. Right now we are in material preview. You can access those same from here from Z as well. So let's get into it with image, texture. Shift A will give you the menu and you can select whatever you like. If you want something specific, you can search for it. And now I will open up my file. So with now I will show you add-on, which is basically for nodes, for material nodes. Make sure to select all three of these add-ons. It will give you not only it will add on to your workflow in immense in like a very good way. So node wrangler first. Sorry. First, I'll show you what is node wrangler. Node wrangler is an add-on which will help you have a view over like each node that you select. And so now I can see that this node has this information. I'll just connect it into base color over here. Principled BSDF is the main output node that we have for now. And then we will connect it to material output surface. So this is what we see right now. So with node arrange, node presets, with node presets, we can have in Blender nodes. Now there are certain nodes that are need to be connected for certain workflows. Like if I say Control T, then you need mapping and texture coordinate nodes compulsory for to set up your texture. So I will just move this around a little, go up, go down, and your frame and there's a mug with Frameboxx logo over it. And so now we can add some color to the mug. This is basically alpha PNG file alpha, so the rest of it is just black. So we can just take a RGB node with mix RGB, and we can choose this alpha to go into the factor input and the color to go over here. Oh, sorry, invert. So RGB will go up here and the image will go down there. So basically now through this simple node setup, you can have a lot of variations. Whatever color mug you like, you can have it. We can keep it at this. And then we can just add some metalness to it and some roughness. So basically this is how you can add a basic, make a basic mug. And add some, we just quickly go over some HDRI. So from world, we will get into, from world, we will get into environment, texture, open. I have a bunch of HDRIs with me, so I just select one randomly. And we can add our own lights too. Area light, I'll take up one area light. And we can adjust the size 500. Oops. 500. Adjust the strength of the HDRI with 0.5. Let's have the HDRI as at 0. I usually work in this manner. So we have HDRI at 0, and so that basically having the HDRI at 0 from the beginning, for me, it helps in a way to understand what each light does for me. So this is what area light is doing for the scene right now. It's just giving a top rim light. And now let's, with Shift D, I will duplicate the light. RX 90 or minus 90 as required by the GZ, and from light we will go, let's set it up to maybe 1000 and 500. RZ 20. Now let's just add some HDRI to just add sort of an uh, ambient lighting. So I will extend. So now I will select the plane. 1, 2, and 3 is how you can get into face, edge, vertice, edge, and face mode. 1 is for vertice, which you can see over here, edge, and face. And now I'll select the edge, E, Z. And now I will select this edge with B, bevel, like I first said, and plus I have a plane ready for a backdrop, G, Y, the basic setup, like very basic. Z, shade smooth. So now let's add a camera. We can go Shift A, camera. So now this is suppose this is where I want the camera to be. Like this is the scene that I'm looking at right now. That is what I like for my camera, and I want the camera to be exactly like this. Then I can just set up the scene, set up my camera, my perspective camera, and let's just expand the scene so that because the scene is not required anyway. Or we can go into layout and do the same. Sorry. Render. So say I like the scene right now, then Alt Control 0. That is all you require to like set up your camera. And you can also move the camera around in your scene through lock camera to view. So your viewport will turn into your camera. So you can zoom in and zoom out, and the camera currently is doing the same. So let's just keep it over here. Lock camera to view off. Make sure to turn it off whenever you turn it on, because if you zoom in, zoom out, pan, then you will lose the camera setting. So since there are a lot of lines and all visible in the viewport right now, we can turn them on and off through these two buttons, and there are more settings inside which you can explore to turn on and off to understand what does what. And we will just make a simple, we just select this GX, and we'll just make a simple render out of this. So render image. And since it's Eevee, everything is just like live, and it's all live rendering. So what you see is what you get in render, and it just depends on the quality you set up, and you basically have this rendered out within a second. So, and to just compare it, I'll just turn on cycles and hit render again. I will take problem size. So the time is 1.5 minutes now. Just to have a comparison of the red. So let's render. I'll show you in some time. Let's now this is an asset that I had created for the webinar itself, and the file for this asset is the file for this asset is available in the description. But before that, we can take up a Q&A and we can just clear our doubts that you have.
So guys, if you have any questions, I would suggest you to just drop it in the comment box so that we can start addressing them. Any questions till now? So there are a couple of questions regarding. So first question we'll take from. Yeah. So first is from Shubham. He wants to know what is the PC specification required for installing Blender.
So basically, to be honest, I'm not a very technical person, but I'll say for sure that when I started out with Blender, I didn't have some fancy machine with me. I was on a very basic laptop with like 4 GB RAM, and just it was basic. It was very basic, and Blender ran in a very smooth manner over there. And I did do some quite I did take in some quite heavy stuff over there, heavy work over there, and still worked. But you can always find more information about whatever requirements are there on Blender website and requirements.
Okay.
It will give you all the information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next question is from Nishant. Like he's a filmmaker and he wants to understand if Blender can be used for creating animals into his real-time footages. Is it able to do it?
Yeah, sure. It can. You can make any asset that you require for your project, including animals, organics, hard surface modeling. There are also a lot of add-ons available for the same. For hard surface modeling, there are numerous amount of add-ons, very interesting and you should try a lot of them that are available. And for animals and everything, sculpting is there are a lot of uh, updates that are always coming up in sculpting, so keep an eye on that. That will definitely help you create a tiger or whatever you wish to create in Blender.
There is one more question. This question is like I also want to ask you this question. So,
Okay.
how much time will be required to learn from existing Max and Maya users?
So since you are already an existing user of Max and Maya, I would say that you would take about 3 to 4 months to get to learn Blender. And since any software is huge, obviously you will take more time to learn each and every nook and corner of the software. But yes, you can create very good assets and very good simulations and animations, whatever you require, within 3 to 4 months. And just be patient. That's one thing I would recommend, because when I was first learning Blender, I tried to shift to my Max and Maya, and it was a little bit rough to like shift between from one 3D software to another. So just keep patience. Blender is easy. It's very like basic and easy. You can and it's free, so there's literally uh, no limitation to information and questionnaires and questions and answers available online. There's everything
Okay.
available.
So there is one more question that is from Shubhay. Ma'am, the Blender interface and control is similar to Maya software, or is it different? So I have heard about this, Ayushi, that if Blender
Yeah.
has a whole system where you can change it to look like Max or change to look like Maya. So can you just quickly touch base that and show it to them? Like how is it possible,
Oh
or is
yeah.
it
Yeah. I
so?
will. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'll show you in just a second. I'll turn on a new Blender for this. So this is the startup file as we just went through. So edit, preferences, and from preferences we can just go to in, uh, hmm, yeah, sorry. So basically, in this list, firstly, what you would like to know is industry compatible, where where all the settings will be changed according to the industry compatible shortcuts. So say if I select industry compatible and set to save preferences, all my navigation will turn into industry compatible. So alt middle mouse, alt right click, and alt middle mouse for alt click for rotation, which is I think the standard for Max in Maya. Is that right, Vishal sir?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So and W, I think it was W. Yeah, W for grab, E for rotate, and R for scaling. So just the way you have your Maya and Max shortcuts, but just I would say make sure that you are using this with caution, because Blender is a very I would say shortcut based software. We have a lot of shortcuts in Blender on the keyboard, and it is important to keep that in mind when you are choosing industry compatible, because the shortcuts that I am using with my Blender shortcuts are not the same. Some of them change because some of them will override with industry compatible. 2.7x Blender is basically like a older version of Blender. And from 2.8, Blender has completely and entirely changed. So if you are using 2.7x, if you're still comfortable with those shortcuts, then you can always choose that. But I keep it on Blender. Also, if you go to themes, there are some different themes that you can select. There's also Maya in it. So is this what Maya looks like for you, sir?
Yeah, definitely.
So this is a Maya version of Blender, you could say.
That's so
And
cool.
yeah, so whatever you like one day, someday, if you like to work in a software called Modo but in Blender,
Really
minimal
great.
dark, yeah. So yeah, this is how you can customize Blender even further.
Okay. So Ayushi, let's take up the next question.
Yeah,
So there's one more question. Does Blender calculate real-time shadows?
yeah, it does. It can calculate shadows. It can calculate ambient occlusion, everything. Rather, like right now, this is the cycle render, like I showed you. But if we go into this, and I will turn back into Eevee, it not only calculates shadows, but also I will just change some shadow settings. So this is Eevee. This is all real time. The shadow that you see over here is getting calculated real time. And even in cycles it will do the same. With control D you can select the amount of render it can do with
Ayushi,
cycles, since it
Ayushi,
calculates.
Ayushi, I will
Yeah,
just tell you
sorry.
to don't use cycles because it is interrupting your voice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's getting
So
load
we
on the.
stick to Eevee. Okay. Sorry. So we stick to Eevee then, and we can take out this region with N and render region. So anything that you see over here is getting calculated real time. From this render settings, you can go down to ambient occlusion, turn it on, and you can see the changes that it's giving you in the viewport. Go right
Wow,
over here.
this is really
So
cool.
and just hit render again if you like, and it has some extra information of ambient occlusion. Same, you can add some bloom, you can add some volumetrics also, motion blur, some shadow information right over here, some indirect lighting. So there's a lot. There's a lot of things that you can do with Blender and
Okay.
Eevee.
Okay. Let's move on to the next question. That is, so this is like an art level question. What Alex wants to ask. So when you approach the model to be made, what all should we keep in mind before we start and when we start? So what is that thing which we need to keep in mind when you start up with any kind
First,
of?
firstly, I would say make sure you have a lot of references for the model so that you know exactly what you want to do and the style that you want to choose for your project. And when you start out with modeling, make sure that you know that anything that you wish to do has a lot of ways to approach it. If you are having trouble with one way of approach, then you can choose to go another way, in terms of between using options between even selection options between like keyboard and mouse, and curves, nerves, mesh modeling, everything is there. And so you can choose your path, you can choose your way. And also there are a lot of so if I tap into edit mode, there's this toolbar over here which gives you a lot of extra options of like loop cuts, uh, knife tool, spin will basically spin the mesh around. And if I just show you, this
Wow.
is a very bad example to show on, but just
But
to
still
just a quick,
it was looking good.
yeah.
Wow.
So this is basically what a spin the toolbar will do. So all the tools are available, and just always make sure that you um, check out similar models online if you can, to know what all can be done and what how you can add to your project and to your model. And also make sure to check out projects done by other artists in your software, whether it's Blender or any other software. But just make sure to check them out to know what is the expanse of, like, how far can you go within your software. Because when I started with Blender, I thought maybe it's not at par with other industry compatible softwares at this point. But when I went online, that is when I realized that okay, there is a lot more to be done over here. There is a lot more that I can do and I can achieve. So just make sure that to keep all of those things in your mind.
Ayushi will have a next question again.
Okay.
So this is like a common question Akib is asking. What do clients think about Blender, like for freelancers? So usually, Max, Maya, these are all the software which people or clients feel like, my project, if it's done on these software, it will work properly. How does
Yeah.
client take it? Like if you say I'm using Blender.
The clients usually they are a little apprehensive at first, but when they realize that no, that Blender has given you the same results and at par, completely at par, then they don't have any issues with it. And mostly Blender does give you the results that you require, even for client projects or personal projects. And you can always update your projects through an addition of mediums, 2D mediums like Photoshop. You can always enhance your renders over there, and just make sure that you're uh, using your render capabilities of your software to the fullest.
Okay. So Ayushi, I think so. Let's get back into the session and let's complete the rest of the things which you would want to show us. Some of your
Okay.
projects, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Just a water break. Okay. So, like I said, right now I do have a pumpkin over here, but which I had specifically made for this webinar. Something else that I had done when I was learning Blender was I made the shoe. This
Wow.
shoe is probably what you've been looking at in the promo and in the layout in the creative. So this is entirely made within Blender, from texturing, lighting. Lighting is very basic. it's not much. It's just an HDR. Yeah, to be honest, I just like the HDR. But lighting, modeling, texturing, everything is within Blender. I didn't go outside of Blender at all. So this just to show you that Blender is capable of doing anything and everything. And for now, I will get back to the pumpkin. So this pumpkin has some amount of sculpting done to it, which I will show you the effects of it just now. So multi-res is a modifier, which basically if you are into ZBrush, ZBrush is where this can compare quite well. In ZBrush, you can sculpt on multiple levels of subdivision. So you can maybe subdivide the highest poly count to like say 1 million, and you can come down to 40,000 and still sculpt over it. So basically, this acts something like that. So you can subdivide your model from here, and there is preview and render. Render is basically what your model will render at, and preview is what you are looking at. So right now, this pumpkin is on 5 subdivisions. I will just go down one by one. So 4, 3, 2, and 1. This is the original model of pumpkin. This is the meshwork. Simple model, nothing too extravagant, just simple loops here and there and some scaling. So I will just go back up again. And so you can see, you can check out the detailing that I've put in on different levels of subdivisions. If I go to into Solidify, you can see the small amount of noises that I've added. So now we will let's get into texture painting for a quick minute. So in texture painting, you can just paint live on the model. So I have a texture ready over here that I had worked with, just a black and white texture with which I can just paint over it. Just a second. Oh, wait. Mhm. I will just go take up the mask. Yeah, you can do some texture variations, and so basically I have a black and white texture map over here, which I have connected to some basic nodes, and I can the best part about so this texture is pretty procedural when it comes to changing colors. So let's say I want a blue pumpkin. I'll just set up a very quick RGB, which is my base color, and we just so since I've used black and white maps, all I'm doing is just feeding in the colors that I wanted to use for the information. So let's make it a little blue. Let's change this to a little blue. And over here I have like a blue pumpkin. And all I've done is basically, I'll expand this. Basically I'm using the node wrangler at the moment, Control Shift. click, I'm using the black and white mask that I've created to feed into the color ramp node, which basically gives it the color information. And then I just mix up these nodes, just very simple, nothing, it's very basic. And mix nodes, some color ramp nodes, overall colors, and yeah, a blue pumpkin, as just as simple as that. So now let's move on to more something interesting. Let's keep it to object. And so now I have divided the screen in between two groups, you could say collections. I will just turn off everything else for now, so that we only have our pumpkin in the screen. And I'll take an empty plain axis, tilt key right, wireframe. Wireframe will help me select everything in and out, because in solid view you cannot select through and through. Wireframe view is which will help you select through and through. So with so yellow selection means active selection, and orange selection is everything passive. So keeping empty as the active selection, I will just press Control P and object keep transform, which will parent the whole pumpkin into an empty. So now all I have to do is select the empty and control the pumpkin. I will cut down the frames to 60, control middle mouse to zoom in and zoom out of timeline, and so now we will just do a basic rotation animation. So we'll select I and click rotation, I and R for rotation. R for rotation, R is underlined. Shift right click to move on to the end of the timeline. R, Z, 180. Simple. Just that's all you do. And I and R again. So now this is and that's it. Now your pumpkin will rotate entirely. This is basically how it's done. And one small thing would be, let's say at 30, if I wanted to go up, if I know I have to keyframe a lot, then I'll just turn on this little button, GZ. No hassle of I and going into the menu. The keyframe is already set. Automatic keyframing. And yeah, so just a basic overview of it. So
Back to the questions.
yeah.
Yeah. So guys, any other questions? I feel Ayushi, you have explained a lot of Blender today, and looking at this, we all got like what a gist of this software. What is this capable of, and what kind of things we can actually think while shifting to Blender. So first, the myth that Blender is not that advanced software is, I think so. After this webinar, I can clearly say Blender can do a lot. Guys, any questions you have? We will quickly address a few questions and then we'll complete the webinar. So, any final questions you want to ask? There is there's one question from Pratik. What kind of a setup do you use while working on short films? Any specific things for making short films or anything like that?
No, Blender as its own is quite capable of making any sort of short films, any sort of movies or anything that you like. Setup is basically just whatever is basically available. There's modeling where you can create your assets, and you can take your assets into the animation panel, and you can just keep on animating or texturing and shading like I showed you. But no, there's no special setup or anything required for the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So so I think so we are done with the time as it's already went above the time limit. But still, any question, guys, you have anything you want to specifically ask, please write down your comments in the comment sections. And after the webinar, also we will try to solve them out. Secondly, as you can see, guys, we are working hard, and we are just trying to get as many things as possible in front of you through the medium of webinar. I would request all of you guys to please subscribe if you haven't, and please hit that bell icon so that you will get all the upcoming webinars which are going to conduct. Um, that's all. That's all for today. I hope you all are you will be safe, and we'll be seeing you in the next webinars which will be coming. See you guys.
See you. See you soon. Hope we will be doing future Blender webinars hopefully. So we will get more and more into other areas of Blender.
I feel looking at the comments, we should be doing a few more. So guys, how many of you feel like we should have more sessions over Blender? Write down into your comment box and let us know any specific thing you want us to bring for Blender. We will definitely address to that in coming weeks. We'll try to organize something like that. There is one question from Alltech Digital. He was late, I feel. Where can we learn Blender? Any classes in India or Mumbai? How much time it takes for a model to complete, for example, pumpkin shown in the live session? Can we learn from you, ma'am? So Ayushi. So classes. First of all, about the classes and everything, I would just like to walk through the things here. We at Frameboxx do have Blender sessions also, so you can get along with our counselors to see how the learning happens. How much time does it took to complete you this pumpkin model? This is something which I feel you should answer.
Pumpkin, it took me about so I went on and off the project, but maybe accumulated and say 2 or 3 days. It's not very difficult to make that pumpkin, and the file of the pumpkin is going to be made available to you in the description box. Hopefully, the link is already present, and you can download the link. You can download the Blender file for it, and you will have the pumpkin. You can experiment. You can look around whatever node setup that I used, and any sort of sculpting techniques or everything is available over there. So make sure you check it out and learn from it.
Ayushi, I feel like at the end we have like a lots of comments. So guys, we'll be taking last 5 comments before we end. We just don't want to just ignore these comments. So there's one good question what we have from Vikrant. What is the file format of file created in Blender?
.blend, .blend, and also one thing that is very important that I would like to touch up again is just let's say I take this mug file. You go to File, External Data, and click on Automatic Pack into Blend. File, External Data, Automatic Pack into Blend. You see over here it was written packed to files. So basically, what it will do is it will create one more extra file for you, which you can carry around anywhere. So you just say you've created a project. So even right now I have the assignment, the shoe model with me. All you see over here is Blender and a .blend file, blend1 file. So this blend1 file is carrying all my textures, and I transported this file from one PC to another PC without having to hassle around with textures and to carry textures. There's no problem about like forgetting textures. What if I forget my main texture for the shoe in some other PC? There's no hassle about it. That blend1 file will carry all your textures. I can even open it quickly and show it to you right now. But yeah, that will carry all your. So I will turn to Eevee and not cycles because there was issues over there. So hopefully this will work out in Eevee. I haven't opened this scene in Eevee. Wait, is my industry comparison. So render. Texture are loading. Just 2 minutes. So like you can see, all the textures are already there in the file, and I haven't carried one single extra texture, nothing, no files, anything. So just that file, external data, and you'll have all your textures with you.
Okay. We have one more question, Ayushi. That is, can we use
Yeah.
the software for making games?
Mm, in terms of asset creation, yes. Through live rendering of Eevee, you can have a very similar sort of experience because that is what the actual coding software based like Unreal and the engines basically required for making games can show you like Unreal, Unity, etc. But yes, for gaming assets and everything, you can use Blender.
Okay. So I feel, and just the last question, can you share a little bit of your experience working with Blender? How easy was it? How hard was it? There's one question from Akib, and can you tell us a little bit about experience in Blender? Maybe specific situations. Maybe sometimes you got life saved just because Blender was there in your daily routine.
Yeah, so basically when I started out in Blender, it was a complete fresher experience for me. I had never like learned 3D before. Vishal sir is actually the one who guided me into 3D.
Thank you
Uh,
for putting that.
and and then from there I just learned Blender, and it was very easy to get into Blender. Uh, it wasn't really tough. It was just like I started out with Blender, just take it step by step from make something very small like maybe a chair, a table, a mug. Like I just made a mug in front of you in like 2 minutes. Like but it's all very easy, and yeah, the I do use Blender daily, and even in my studio, in my workplace, where we all are allowed to use whatever softwares we like, and so that is another example of like how Blender can be used in industries also. Because well, my colleagues do use other softwares like Cinema 4D, Max, Maya, and I use Blender, and there has never been a time where any of my colleagues have complained that no, Blender is not doing this well or Blender is not doing that well. It's been pretty at par. And my experience related to Blender is just I took it slow, so I went day by day, just sat down for like an hour to every day and learned it little by little.
Okay. So this is it, guys. I have taken down all your comments, and as you all guys are saying, we'll be back with one more Blender session, but that won't be introductory. That will be specifically onto one part, maybe modeling or maybe texturing, or let's see what comes up. And stay updated. Press the bell icon if you haven't, and you'll get all the notifications. Meanwhile, stay safe. See you guys.
Sure. See you guys. Stay safe. Please stay home. Stay safe.